If you want to conquer your fear of math, stay with me.
Yay! 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 Math! Yay! Math! Yay! Math! Yay! Yay!
Welcome to the Mathematician's lesson. Peace to all of you, peace to you, and to you. I don't have hands. Oh, but I do. I am the mathematician, and welcome. Today, there is no lesson. Just kidding. The mathematician has a sense of humor. The lesson today is... This is the lesson today. The power of the mind will help us solve. What happens in this case? Okay, anyone raise their hands slowly and confidently if you've seen something like this before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, nice!
Hi and welcome to the Uncon School at howtobecomeaprofessor.com, the web show to learn from unconventional professors and experts. My name is Stefan and I'm your host. Math seems to be one of those things that generates strong emotions among people. There's one group of people who love math, and likewise there's another group of people who hate it, kind of. I believe that the hate towards math roots in the feeling of helplessness or even traumatic experiences during tests or even in front of class. So in today's session, you're going to learn how to conquer that fear towards math and maybe changing your perspective on math entirely. Nevertheless, being good and confident in math is always a handy skill to have. For today's session, I've invited a very special guest who started a movement to make math education fun again. His name is Robert Ahdoot. He's a full-time high school math teacher since 2005 and the founder of yaymath.org. The YayMath video project is a free service dedicated to meeting the growing need for math success in a positive, lively, and confidence-boosting way. YayMath stands as the only online video lesson series filmed in a live classroom with real student interaction. It has grown into a global movement, boldly redefining how people perform better in their math coursework. Robert, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate it. And since today's is our second take because the video quality and the audio quality wasn't so good last time, I really appreciate that you're taking again your time to do that interview.
I'm happy to do it, Stefan, and nice to talk to you again. And it's important we do it right, so it's another chance to talk to you.
Awesome. Alrighty. So the very first question I'd like to ask you, Robert, is why do you think is math one of those subjects in school that probably causes the most problems among students?
I think the reason that people get a lot of trouble with math is that it's like a house of cards, and that everyone seems to know once they get to that certain place in their math studies that the concepts build on previous lessons. Mm-hmm. And so if you feel like you don't have that bottom platform, then you're unable to progress to advanced levels. And that can be very frustrating because you're not, as a student, you're now accountable for work that you did in years past.
Right.
It's very difficult to create a clean slate. So by that nature, it's very easy to fall into trouble.
Okay, awesome. You know, in our today's society, working society, there are a ton of jobs that actually do not require, you know, math skills per se. I mean, that go beyond subtraction, addition, and multiplication, and so forth, the basic ones. So why is it still, in your opinion, worth becoming kind of proficient in math in the first place, and even if it's possible, having a lot of fun while doing it?
See, that's a two-sided question. Your question is actually accurate in the sense that there are a lot of professions that don't necessarily require high-level math skills, right. But at the same time, math is this gateway to people's careers, right. And that they need to overcome math maybe to get into a certain program, a graduate program or a college program, or even a placement test just to qualify to get into that type of training. Things like paramedics or nurses come to mind, like those types of professions. Where on the job, they're not really using it, but to get in, they need to prove that they can do it,
Right.
which to me is very odd. I sympathize with students that have to go through that. And at the same time, especially for the younger students, I think that many people may run the risk of writing math off or dismissing their math studies and never really getting close enough to realizing that maybe one day down the line, once they've gotten older, a little more mature, a little more patient, that they would be able to perform math better, and then that their career choices could be a lot more, I guess, diverse as a result. That you never know what they could do
Right.
if they would just stay with it or try to not dismiss it over the course of their studies. So it's two-sided in that regard.
Okay. You know, what is your take on the nature-nurture debate? Do you think math is something that in which you need you know, a natural talent in, or do you think math is something that anybody can learn?
Oh man, that's a really interesting question. Is math a natural talent, or it's something that we can learn? I really feel like we have to begin with it's a concept that people can learn.
Right.
I believe that. I believe that everything's relative. If you ask a 10th grader or 11th grader, someone 16, 17 years old, to do their multiplication tables, hopefully it would be pretty quick by then, or at least how to divide or do the basics, because to them that's easy, or what they would call easy. So I really feel like we have to find avenues by which people learn, whether they learn through doing it themselves, whether they learn through concepts, whether they learn through visual, seeing it done before them. Especially with the new generations, they need a lot of short, brief, concise examples, less textbook oriented. That's the thing. If anyone's watching this and they feel like they can't decode a textbook, don't give up and think that math is not for you. You know, there's a lot of ways to do it, especially like with what Yay Math is doing. It's presenting it in a way that's digestible. Having said that, I think there is some propensity for people to do better in certain topics.
Sure.
I wouldn't deny that, but we have to start with the ability of trying to access their own innate abilities in different fashions.
Okay, got it. All right, let's dive deep into the core content of our today's session.
Sure.
How can we conquer the fear of math? Or in other words, how can we unlearn that fear of math?
That's an important topic, and it's central to many people's lives, both academically and then spilling over into their professional and personal lives. I want to give you an example, which happened with my cousin. My cousin was helping his son, 5 years old, with his just basic level homework, basic level, like kindergarten worksheets, that type of thing. And I was watching him, and he was saying to his son, like, I know you're frustrated. I can see that you're frustrated. Don't give up. Try not to give up. Just try to do this one question. And you can see in a very distilled way how people have the ability to just shut down. And when you shut down, you can't do anything of substance.
Right.
And this is a lesson for everyone, not just with math. And so when we start to feel the feelings of being shut down, that's the sign, that's the giveaway that we're approaching the concept in ways that are against us, that are against our ability to be successful. I've always loved the expression, nothing is difficult, it's only familiar, or only unfamiliar. Nothing is difficult, only unfamiliar. And that's true. I really like that a lot. So math anxiety, I think, first is prioritized by the anxiety, and then by the math. So they should call it anxiety of math. You know, that's really a better way that they should call it, because it's true. Address the anxiety first, and then the math will flow.
Okay. And is there a blueprint for conquering math? I mean, there are now, there's so many textbooks, so many resources, so many websites. I mean, yours as well, and a Khan Academy as well. People are kind of overwhelmed with the resources and they do not know where to start. So what is your advice? Should they stick with one resource, or should they combine, or what is the right way to go?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Because there is a saturation of options, that could also be overwhelming. Right. But nothing would stand in the way of a student, or let's say a parent and their student, or a teacher and a student's ability to search out and find information. I mean, it comes with intent. So intent is the big part of it. Can we find something to fix our inability to do this math? Having said that as well, we should also backtrack to, if we're talking about anxiety, we're now introducing a psychological aspect. And to address the psychological aspect, we have to go back to the point of injury, the initial point of injury. Maybe all this anxiety had to do with a teacher several years ago that made us feel inferior. We have to talk about those things, because if they're at the source of the entire problem, then they can be eradicated, and we can look at math through a different lens, through a clear lens, not a red lens of anger or a blue lens of sadness. And so we have to go back to the original. Maybe it could happen from parents. I still see it. It's very sad. A mom saying to their kid, well, you're just more artistic. You're not really a math person, and that's okay. That's okay. We love you anyway. That could have huge damage and set the child back in so many ways and alter their entire course of their lives that they would have stumbled onto themselves. And so that's a big part of the blueprint, going back to the point of injury. Even if that point of injury was recent, like this past year, you could start a year and start school in the fall and everything's going well, and then you get a test that's graded poorly. What was it about that content that set you back? And then going through one piece at a time with intent and trying to figure out, well, where did I go from a good student to a bad student in math? Where did that happen and why? And that could be a great place to begin, as opposed to being down for so long and trying to come up from that. I think going back to where success was still tangible and the taste of success was still at hand, then you can build from that point.
All right, okay. What about those people who cannot remember if or when they were successful in math? Where shall they start?
At the basics. I think they do. I think that people do. I mean, come back to when you said addition, subtraction, and multiplication, division. Like that you can go back to that. I do that in my class at the heat of the moment when we're studying for a final, and the class says, this is really, really hard. I don't deny that. I don't deny them that feeling. I acknowledge their feelings. But then let's say in an Algebra 2 class, I'll do a basic level radical problem, simplifying the square root of 18 or something we spent a lot of time doing in previous months. But then they're able to simplify the radical very easily. I said, remember when this was hard? Remember when this was hard? Try to find that place. And if you still can't do that, then maybe they're in the wrong class, or maybe they need to do individual work, or maybe they have issues with their retention. But these are all, I truly believe, to the dedicated student, we have the ability to chart our own progress, and we know how we're doing. We know how we're doing, and we even know how we're doing in our relationships. We know how we're doing on the job. We know how we're doing with our friends. We know, like, we can feel our place as like getting positive feedback or negative feedback, and that allows us to get a sense of where we stand. At the same time, though, we have to also be resistant to the negative interpretations of how we're doing as well. Some people are doing really well and their parents think it's not enough. And some people are doing very poorly and their parents say that they're amazing, and like they're awesome regardless. So I think there is an ability for people to go back and think about when they did it well, and how to improve upon that.
All right, awesome. Well, you know, in the last part of our interview, I'd like to talk more about yaymath.org.
Sure.
Why did you start it in the first place? And yeah, what have you learned from math education in general from this project?
It was a calling to start this project. You know, we in class when we're teaching students, let's say my first few years was with 9th graders. Mm-hmm. Very nervous, but lots of energy, lots of hope for their own success and for their own development. And so to juxtapose, let's say, simplification of square root of 18 and like a Michael Jackson spin, or like put the arm up, woo, and like do a little leg turn, it blew them away. You know, it even blew me away. Like, how can these two merge? How can the person who likes to listen to the Michael Jackson music also be simplifying radicals? And that formula was just solid gold. It was solid gold. And we knew as a class that we couldn't just hold that for ourselves. If there's other students that are walking out of the class with a huge smile on their face, then that could transcend to millions of people walking away from their computers with a huge smile on their face as if they had been there. And it becomes timeless as well. Something that was filmed 4 years ago, for example, is still benefiting people today. Right. Thousands and thousands of people are benefiting. And like you said, it's a free project, so people can get online and learn more about it. And it's led to a movement, really, of people that are changing their relationship with math. They're changing their relationship. Like, oh, I'm allowed to laugh during this lesson. I'm allowed to like roll my eyes, or I'm allowed to see someone in a costume, something I would see at like a carnival or a cartoon or something. Right. But yeah, he's dressed up as a mathematician. Like, that's funny. Like, that's weird. And some people are uncomfortable by it, and I also welcome them as well, because we're breaking new ground, and so you're not going to be able to get through to everyone. And so that marriage is just it blows your mind. It's really fun. It's really fun.
All right. What is the vision? What holds the future for yaymath.org?
So what's interesting about the business model is that yaymath's original content is going to be free and always will be free for people to consume at their leisure, for students and teachers and even tutors and parents and things like that. Mm-hmm. And what it's done, it's that it's led to a very energized and happy fan base, which I'm very connected to. And that's drawn in other opportunities. I was able to build an app on iTunes for Algebra 1. I've done a couple TED Talks, and now we're going to shift into professional development. And so I've already visited some schools and addressed faculty and the students there. I'd like to talk to parents. I think we can bottle up this formula and take it on the road and affect one school at a time, and really help them reach new levels of where they already are, because they're intent on improving already if they're inviting me over, but we can just give them some support and some wisdom and share ideas in order to improve their entire strategy. So that's a big part of what I'd like to do. And maybe even some online tutoring if people want access to the yaymath guy personally. I can make that available too. So these are projects that I'm working on, and hopefully will come to fruition.
All right. Robert, thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
And sharing your vision of yaymath.org with the world and with us as well. If you guys are as excited about Robert and his project yaymath.org, please check out his website and his awesome content. And yeah, if you liked that video, then also please subscribe to our YouTube channels and check out howtobecome a professor.com.